2, 1, 2, 3. Welcome to She Rocked It. This is the place where ladies are talking about the ways we're blazing our trails and the things that put the wind in our sails.
Hello and welcome to the She Rocked It podcast. I'm your host, Karen Gross, and I am so thrilled to introduce this very special episode of the She Rocked It podcast, which was recorded live at the Bridge Studio in Brooklyn, New York, as part of New York Music Month in June 2024. New York Music Month is an initiative of the New York City Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment. You can get tuned in at NYMusicMonth.NYC. I have to say a huge thank you to the New York City Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment, with a special thanks to Shira Gans for including us as part of the incredible lineup of events happening throughout June in New York City. And a very special thanks also to Mona Kayhan and her team at the Bridge Studio in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, for welcoming us into her incredible space for this live event and podcast taping. We had an amazing energy, an incredible studio audience in the house, and also a very big wait list to get into this event. So if you weren't able to be there in person, well, you're in luck, because you're about to hear the incredible conversation that happened that day called Real Talk with Women in the Music Industry from Studio to Sync. And you may know that She Rocked It has already had some incredible conversations called Real Talk with Women in the Music Industry. This is the 6th episode we have done on this topic, and it was awesome to feature 4 women who are rocking it across different roles in the New York City music industry. Mona Kayhan is the majority owner of the Bridge Studio in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Jen Pearce is the founder of Low Profile, a music licensing and consulting agency also based in Brooklyn. Jeanne Montalvo is a Grammy-nominated audio engineer and award-winning radio producer. And Rashida Scott-Cruz is a professor in the music industry program at Monmouth University. So why is it so important to hear real talk from women in the music industry? Well, if you look at the data, there is still a startling lack of representation of women across roles in the music industry. If you want to learn more about that, go check our show notes, where we're going to link to data released by sheisthemusic.org from Amplify Her Voice and the Recording Academy and others. Here at She Rocked It, we believe that when we listen to, learn from, and lift one another up, we can all rock it. So thank you for tuning in to these stories. And without further ado, here is episode 6 of Real Talk with Women in the Music Industry.
Hey, everybody. It's good to see you all. I'm Shira from the New York City Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment. We're the city agency that supports the creative sectors, and I'm the person who does all the music industry work for the city. So I created New York Music Month in 2017.
Oh, wait, just take a minute on that. Okay, what? She rocked it, no big deal.
And so I go to all these events, and now I just realize I kind of say what our office is, but I actually don't really explain what New York Music Month is. I think I've assumed everyone knows what it is, and maybe you don't. So since we're recording this, I'll give a little briefer on what New York Music Month is. Before I started doing the work in 2016, there was no one in city government whose job it was to support the music industry. And so as I was doing the work and talking to folks in the industry, someone was like, hey, the industry does so much in June. There's all these festivals, there's conferences, there's award shows. Like, can't the city do anything to recognize that? And I was like, yeah, we could make June New York Music Month. And so it started mostly as a way to just kind of have the city officially shine a spotlight on all the amazing work the industry does. And what it's become over the years is kind of like this stone soup, if you build it, they will come thing, where every year more and more people come to me, like Karen, and say, hey, I have this idea. Do you think we could do this thing? And so it went from maybe 12 events to now this year I worked with more than 30 industry partners to have a calendar of more than 30 events this month. Yeah.
Are you tired?
I'm very tired. No, just kidding. It's not tiring. And yeah, it's all across the 5 boroughs. There's also free rehearsal space for artists in every borough but the Bronx at the moment. So you can check it out at NYMusicMonth.NYC. And this one's particularly fun because Karen Gross and I went to college together. We were a little ahead of the curve. We lived in something called Womanist House, which was the intersectional Feminist House before that was a thing. So we were very advanced. And Karen and I, lived in that house together. And then last year, kind of during June, she saw it, and because she's an artist herself, was like, hey, can we do something? And we couldn't pull it off last year, but we did not give up. I came here, I saw this amazing studio. We had the vision, we didn't give up. And so now I've been waiting a whole year to hear this conversation. So without further ado, Karen.
Thank you so much, Shira. It is amazing that it's been a year since we kind of envisioned this, and it's definitely divine timing because this was the perfect moment to do it for many reasons that you're going to hear about in this conversation. And I just want to start with a little welcome to the She Rocked It podcast, to everyone here. Again, I want to thank Shira, I want to thank Denzel, I want to thank the entire Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment for their genuine support of the music community. I mean, these folks are showing up. I got the goosebumps right now because, as we were joking earlier, if you follow Shira on Instagram, she literally has shown up for, I think, all of those 30 events, if not most of them. So her enthusiasm, we appreciate. It's genuinely felt. They've been sharing all of our social media posts, and that just doesn't happen all the time. So thank you, NYC, for really getting behind, the music community. It's a big deal, and we are so proud. We couldn't be more proud to be an official event as part of New York Music Month in June, which is an initiative of the New York City Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment. And as Shira mentioned, we went to college together, so this is definitely a very poignant thing. And I just would say that's also one of our first lessons that we may share in this panel, which is to stay in contact with your people, right? Because you never know. 20 years later? Sorry, I outed us. You may end up collaborating with them later on something really beautiful. And I'm so grateful that the circle kind of went around and we're able to do this and, keep on championing women, which is, I know, really important to both of us. So speaking of rockstar women, I also want to say a big thank you to Mona Kayhan of the Bridge Studio for presenting us here in this incredible space, the Bridge. As you probably read in the description of this event, this is a continuation of She Rocked It series called Real Talk with Women in the Music Industry. And She Rocked It is so fortunate to have recorded the first two of that series also here at the Bridge, which was now over a year ago. Definitely check them out. Amazing women on that series as well. And this is actually our 6th conversation on that series. So I don't have time to name every woman who was on the series, but let me tell you, they're all rock stars across the industry, from artists to 4-time Grammy-winning producer, I'll name dropper, Cheryl Pavelski, who's amazing. So go ahead and check out those other conversations. And we're so thrilled to continue that conversation, number 6 tonight, with the New York City's support. With that, I want to turn over to these incredible women who are rocking it in the industry, because what we can do to change the statistics, to move the needle, I believe, She Rocked It believes, that we can listen to women. We can learn from women. We can just hear and learn from their journeys. So we're going to do that today, and I would like to invite the panel to each introduce themselves, starting with Jeanne.
My name's Jeanne Montalvo. I'm an audio engineer based here in New York. I've been here for about 17 years now. Else?
Oh, I could brag about you. You want me to go to the master's degree from NYU? Tell that.
I got a master's at NYU. In music technology. I worked for 5 years before that in jazz and classical doing a Metropolitan Opera restoration project. And I hated opera, but I took the job because I wanted to work in music in New York, and that was the first job I got. So here I am.
And there may have been a Grammy nomination along the way.
Yes. Yeah.
This is what the ladies do. We hype each other up.
I'm not good at
Yeah. I got your back.
Yes. 2017, I was working with Meyer Media, now Swan Studios, and I was nominated for a Grammy for mastering Vladimir Horowitz, classical, unreleased recordings at Carnegie Hall. And I did a lot of that work for probably 10 years. And then after NYU, I broke into radio, and that is my day job that pays the bills. So I work in podcasting, and I do sound design, and I also do music. So
give it up.
My name is Mona. I'm so honored you're all here today, by the way. This is exactly why we built the studio the way we built it. So we can have people together, communing, and then capturing something live and capturing it with that energy exchange at hand in a hi-fi, amazing way, right? With our incredible staff back there, we've got Greg Talk, who's engineering. All right. Thank you to Greg. We also have Sam back there as our intern. We also have Giuseppe back there as an intern. And Tim, an ally. But so yes, I am now, since last year, the majority owner of the Bridge Studio, which was a really big deal for me. A long, arduous process. Please come in, sit down. Could be talked about and at any point during the conversation. But in general, I am a facilitator and a producer. I love making things happen. That's just my middle name. I've worked at a label. I used to produce stages at Lollapalooza and Austin City Limits. I've gone on tour. I've done tour management. I manage an artist. And then during COVID, I'm just going to be full transparency here.
Real talk.
Since it's real talk. Yep. We were forced to shut down for 3 months at our studio because the government deemed us non-essential. And both my husband and I had our entire world in the studio, and it was doing quite well. And I had, at the lowest point, when I thought it was going to be maybe a month or two even, at the lowest point I said, I really need to pivot. And who am I? What am I good at? And I said to myself, I'm someone who can build things and make things happen, build whatever it is. I could build anything, right? So through a friend, someone said, hey, there's a company that's starting a division around virtual events. It's in fintech. And we've been looking for someone that's very specific for about 6 months, and we haven't found anyone. Would you be willing to have a conversation? And I was like, I have literally nothing to lose. So just sitting in my apartment, homeschooling my 8-year-old child and watching the bills trying to get paid with no money coming in. Really tough place to be. So that was 3 years ago. And so now I am also a VP of operations at a fintech company, just for full disclosure, which I think is like, you have to be real, right? It's like, I made that decision for my family, and I said, how can I continue to be, someone that can still have this temple that we built and still be involved in it, but also do something I've never done before, which is build a global division from scratch. And I said to myself, I'd love to have that opportunity to build something that I scale personally from one person to now I have 25 people. So it's been it's a whole other part of my life, but I'm very honored you're here, and thank you so much for coming.
Hard to follow that up. Hey y'all, I'm Jeanne Pearce. I have a company called Low Profile. It's a licensing company. I worked at a bunch of other companies before. I was at Terrorbird and Warner Brothers Records running all of their licensing. And then I went to Downtown where I met Neil.
Shout out to Neil Zammel
Neil.
for connecting She Rocked It with Jeanne Pearce. That's a great ally. Thank you, Neil.
Yeah, so I was running the licensing department there, and I started a company that ran through the label. We were doing licensing for a bunch of other artists outside of the label. And in general, I had I've been a pretty big shit talker on the music industry my whole life. So I've been really upset with how obviously, women are paid and treated, but honestly, it's just the artists, right? Like, how do you support artists? How do you actually take care of them and make it so that they can keep creating music that we all so desperately need in our lives? So, so at the label, one of the office receptionists, who is this amazing artist, would overhear me talking, and he'd be like, can I send you my music? So I started working with him, and he was so great. He's from Nigeria, just a completely different vibe. And I kept sending him briefs that would come in from music supervisors who were looking for songs for an ad or a TV show or a trailer. And I said to my boss, I was like, we got to sign this guy. He's so talented. And he was like, I would never sign our office receptionist. And I was like, screw that. So then I placed one of his songs in the biggest Apple ad of the year. And needless to say, we still work together, by the way, and I love him very much. But, he got to quit being the office receptionist and make music full time as a career. And to me, I was like, that's it. Like, that's what I want to do. And not only that, but people all over the world got to hear his song. He didn't have like a Facebook profile. It was fabulous. So after that, I started Low Profile, and that was in 2017. And our whole thing is about transparency and giving artists access to information and making sure that everyone understands what's going on. And so anytime we get a brief from a music supervisor, which happens like anywhere from 8 times to 20 times a day, people just, there's music literally everywhere, whether it's sound design or, a new song for the theme song of a show or whatever it is, people hit us up. And so we share all of that with the artists that we represent and allow them to be part of the process and to see what's going on and what the budgets are and how things work. And I just really love what I do. I'm sure we all have a moment where a song and something changed your life, or you just felt really connected to a project because of an amazing sync. So it's really fun. It never gets old. And yeah, sorry, that was kind of long, but
I was moved by that. I was moved. That was awesome. Jen, before I let you go, I feel, this is called From Studio to Sync, today's conversation. And can you give like a quick description of what a sync actually is? Because I just feel like there's so much confusion. You have like a down and dirty definition so we're all on the same page.
Let's get down and dirty. Yeah. Let's do it. Okay, so sync, you're basically, you're putting song to picture. And I'm going to try to do this in like a not confusing way, but for every song, there's the master side, right? And then the publishing side. And so you're representing one or both or a portion of, a song. And we basically, a sync is just when you, like I've been saying, you place a song in a project and then we negotiate all of the fees and do all the paperwork. And so we have to represent the artist exclusively in order to do that. So we work with artists from all over the world, big and small, just whatever we love. And does that kind of help?
Rashida Scott-Cruz.
Hi. Okay. Well, my name is Rashida Scott-Cruz. I teach the business of music with the Monmouth Music Industry Program located in West Long Branch, New Jersey. I've been in the music business for over 25 years. So I have a wide range of experience from sound from film to working with artists like Taylor Swift on a launch exhibit through the Grammy Museum, the estate of Whitney Houston. I've worked with her family. I love what I do. I teach. I work really closely with the students. I work to help them get great internships, which turn into great jobs or either starting their own companies. So that's something I really take a lot of pride in, is taking them under my wing for those that really want to get jobs that pay well, opposed to interning for an indefinite period of time. And then aside from that, I am also a music producer. So I just released an album called Monmouth Artists for Diversity Inclusion. It's Volume 2. It's a collaboration with a variety of students where we basically work with them to help them develop themselves as an artist, help them learn the different, roles that it takes to get an album executive produced.
So cool.
So we're really excited about that. Assad Whitehead is our executive producer or lead producer. And so those are just some of the fun things that we do. We'll talk more about everything else later.
I just had to brag about Rashida a little bit. So I've had the honor of speaking in front of her class at Monmouth University and participating in some women in music events. Billboard has recognized the program at Monmouth now as a
top music business school.
School. And I've kind of seen some of those students also be placed in positions in New York City or close by. I think
Jimmy Fallon show.
Right? Mm-hmm. Jimmy Fallon show and in New York City. So, Monmouth may be based in New Jersey, just outside the city, but there's a lot of interplay between that university and the New York City music industry. And it's been awesome to see how Rashida is so respected by her students. And I always say, I wish when I was a young whippersnapper, I wish I had a professor like Rashida kind of opening the door to the industry. I mean, such a special gift for the students to have you as a mentor.
Thank you.
Rock on.
Sweet.
Yes.
Thanks.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to get into it now. We're going to get right into the nitty-gritty of these women's journeys and what you can learn from them. So with that said, it's one thing to break into the music industry, and it's another thing to sustain a career in the music industry, which, as we all know, is ever-changing. Lots of new challenges every day getting thrown at us. So if you all could answer this, how did you first gain a foothold in the music industry, and how have you maintained it? What lessons and learnings can you share from your journey?
Well, I think one of the most important things is community and the organizations that facilitate like the thing that you want to do. So as a student, I joined the Audio Engineering Society and I became like super duper involved. I was in Atlanta. We didn't have a student section, so I petitioned to start a student section. And that connected me with this wonderful engineer named Jim Anderson, who is an engineer that's amazing. Look him up. Who is here at NYU. And at one of the conventions, they used to have speed mentoring. And I signed up for speed mentoring with Jim Anderson, and we met in person. And I was trying to figure out what to do after school. I was done, that first part of my degree. And he was like, oh, have you ever heard of the Banff Center? And like in my brain, when I started studying, I was like, I'm going to Miami. I'm going to work in Latin music. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be in a studio. It's going to be great. I'd never set out to like do classical and jazz. That was not in my plan. But Jim was like, how about this Banff Center? I was like, okay, cool. I'll look it up. I applied. I got rejected. And I emailed him. I was like, hey, do you have any other suggestions? And, he didn't have too much, like just a couple of other studios. I didn't hear from him for a while. And then like 6 weeks later, like I think I was about to get on a plane to come home and live with my parents again because I didn't know what was going to happen. And the week before I was getting on that plane, I got a notice that, hey, are you still interested? Somebody dropped out of the program. Do you want to come? And Banff is in Canada. It's in Calgary, like on the other side, like really far north and cold. So I was in a really hot temperature. I flew home. I unpacked all my summer stuff, repacked all of my winter stuff, and I went to Banff. And that was literally the beginning of my trajectory. Because from Banff, I got the Tanglewood Music Festival because somebody in the program applied there. And I was like, hey, I think they have another slot. Do you want to apply? I did. I got it. And then from Tanglewood, somebody at Tanglewood was like, hey, there's a spot in New York at this opera job. And I was like, no. And and I spent the entire summer at Tanglewood emailing studios. I really wanted to live in New York because I did a study abroad in Europe. And I was like, if I'm going back to the States, I need to live in New York because I just want to ride trains and not have to drive. And so it was like that was the only option. Every studio I wrote, oh, yeah, we have this unpaid internship. Oh, we have this. And like, whatever, like part-time or, oh, whatever. And I was like, how do I take a 40-hour internship in New York unpaid? Like, no. So at the end of the summer, the only thing that was still creaking through was this opera gig. And I took it. I got it. I did that. I did the Manhattan School of Music part-time. I was like literally, I worked 7 days a week. I was always working. And that was it. It was just like, it was literally like one thing led to another. And I never let go of AES. I continued being part of AES. I joined all of the women's orgs. Like I community and knowing people is like the best way to continue to work and to get work. And I think that
was awesome. Thank you so much. Mona, what do you have to say? Yeah, we can applaud after every great answer. Yes. I'm feeling it too.
Yeah, no, that's such a good question. I think also I love this idea of like just saying yes to everything. I think that's a big one, just being open and saying yes, and even if it's not what you thought it was, what you were seeking out at the time. I would also say like being open to being agile and flexible too. When COVID hit and we finally reopened, the biggest thing suddenly we were getting, I'm curious, the other engineers here were video requests, like nonstop, because no one could perform. So they were like, let's perform in a studio, record it, and then make that even pretend it's a live performance and Simulive or whatever. And so, before that, if I had asked our engineers to put a drum kit next to a vocal mic, they would have said, "Are you nuts?" But we were like, okay, this is what they need. This is what we want. Let's figure out how to mic it differently than we normally would. And so they just kept pivoting and iterating and figuring it out. And then pretty soon we were just recording and shooting so much content in here. And that was like, I thought I was so impressed with how we pivoted. And I think that's also just being flexible and evolving with the times is really important. And
how did you get into like being a recording studio owner? You and your husband had a studio prior to this, I believe, right?
Yes, sustaining. Yes. Okay, fine. That's a good one. We had a very small project studio in Red Hook before this. Basically, both of us have a huge passion for just like music from around the world. I don't like calling it world music, but especially from West Africa. So we both had spent a lot of time there. And we loved recording live percussion. And so it was mainly my husband who's the engineer, and I was always just the person that was making it all happen, right? So we got a notice on the door that said, you have to vacate in 30 days or less. And we had been there for like 10 years. Yeah. Any studio owner out there knows this letter that goes on the door. It's the letter you wish never would come, right? And we were in total shock and panic. And then, that's another case of how do you be flexible? How do you not give up? We still put our stuff in storage because we had to leave. And, it took 8 people to move that Harrison 4032 console back there. It was like moving a car. It was the most depressing move of our lives, for sure, moving everything out with no place to go. And it took us 2 years to find this place, which was a very arduous journey. And then we were like, this is it. We could have given up many times during those 2 years, but we didn't. So I think not giving up and just like having your eyes set on what your ultimate vision is, no matter what comes in your way. And then that's where I became more involved, of course, because I had a love of working with artists, making things happen for artists, in no matter what. So it's whether it was live music, touring, producing festivals. So the studio environment for me felt very similar, where I was like, I'm basically doing the same thing I do in a label or on the road, but in the studio. And like, I think there really needs to be that person at a studio. It can't just be the engineer. The poor engineers have so much that they have to do. You guys, it's an art form. I swear the recording arts are the most underappreciated art form out there. It is a craft, and it's like, and one could say maybe it's, dwindling, right? But it's the last thing we have to capturing the most authentic way something sounds in the room, the most purest way to capture something. And that to me, like, gives me chills every time I think about it. And so I knew I had enough passion to be the yin to the yang, essentially, and go fully in. Yeah. Whether
and here
for
we
better
are.
or for worse. Yeah.
To be continued on what made this all happen. Jen, how about you? How did you get in and stay in?
Oh, my goodness. I just was desperate. I was so desperate. But I moved here from Louisiana, and I just was like, come on, y'all, somebody give me a job. And I interned everywhere because I wanted to know, okay, what are the different jobs that exist? Like, okay, I love music. We got that much, but what do I want to do within music? Let me go. There were some internships I literally went for a day where I was like, no, this is not it. Don't want to waste your time. Thank you so much. Got to go. Not that I would necessarily, I don't know if I like fully recommend that for everyone, but I do think for me it worked, and I just realized, licensing and sync, this is like so cool. And I think from day one for me has been like, what's the differentiator? Like, what do I add to the conversation that's different? And I think for me, truly, number one thing has always been like, how do we do this in a way that's actually artist friendly, not just saying that we're artist friendly. Like, so that's always been my number one. And I think that's the reason we've had such a successful business since, starting, is because artists really trust us. We like allow anyone to leave at any time. You're not in jail if you work with us. It's like very much, it has to be mutual, and it needs to be where we both feel like we're, I'm not a nonprofit. Like, we also make money, but we are very, very much on the side of doing things right because everyone can win. And I still feel like the entire industry is so far back in time. And like you still see these terrible deals and artists they just don't either know better or they have no other option or they think that, or it's just like validation where they're like, oh my gosh, someone's recognizing my music. I need to sign this deal. And a lot of artists don't really have the resources in the beginning of their careers to negotiate properly and to hire a lawyer because that's the best thing you could ever do. But I've also been there as a human being where I'm like, I can't afford this. I'm not doing that. I'll just like Google it. And, it's probably the most important part of any artist's career is like, what are the deals that you're signing? Are you going to be trapped? Like all that kind of stuff. So we spend a lot of time trying to educate and make a lot of information public and, just to help the community at large because so many artists will email me being like, can you help me get out of my deal? And I'm like, I don't know, but I'll try. And then it's just something that I'm really passionate about and just making sure that it's the right fit team, everyone gets the vibe, so anyway, I think that's the number one reason that we've been able to have so much success is because we work with great artists. That's the most important thing, and then we really try to support them as much as we can. So
awesome. Thank you for shaking up the status quo, Jen. Seriously. Yes, right? It's a beautiful thing. Rashida.
So I used to play in the band. That's what I did.
I don't think I knew that.
I played alto for 20 years. Most of my fellow bandmates are all guys, and we played in high school, jazz band, all kinds of fun stuff. And then I started, one day after school, I just started DJing. I just started collecting vinyl. And then, I think I was in New York every other day, sometimes twice a day, coming from New Jersey to buy vinyl. Started spending house music, hip hop and techno and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I did that for 20 years. And then after that, I realized I wasn't gonna be Spinderella, even though a lot of people loved my mixtapes and always wanted
not too late.
me to. So, and that's where it kind of started for me. Ironically, I did want to be a film composer, a music composer. And when I saw the stats on the point of entry for women, not even just women, but women of color, it was a deterrent. And so that was the next best thing that I enjoyed doing. So I don't think I ever shared that before either. No. But, I think that's improving, but there's still a lot of room for improvement in that, component of the sound for film industry. And then to kind of sustain it, I started to develop curriculum for business and music, taking all the things that I've learned.
Also, if you're not familiar with Monmouth University, it's, Asbury Park area, Bruce,
Yes, Bruce is
Bruce
a regular.
Springsteen archives, aren't they there?
Yeah, he's regular.
He's a regular.
So
there's a lot of music stuff happening in that community, and Rashida has been a huge part of that. So thank you all so much for kind of laying that groundwork and giving us a window into your journeys and some great, great lessons, too, that I think we all should be making some mental notes. And I'm just curious, from all of your perspective, why do you think that women are still underrepresented across the music industry, especially more in even certain roles than others, but there's still an underrepresentation. So I'm curious why you all think that is based on your journeys. And what are some of the biggest obstacles, but also opportunities for women working in music here in New York City? Anyone want to jump in on that first?
I think it's rough out there. Like it's just really rough. I think to be a female, to be an artist, I think that I know a lot of people who have left the industry because they're just over it. They're over being underpaid, undervalued, not to mention all the really creepy stuff that happens sometimes, which all of y'all are nodding your heads. Yes, we can just be real about it. It's terrible. There's a ton of sexual harassment. I mean, not to get like super dark, but there's a lot of things that need to be fixed from from the top down. There's so many fundamental issues, I think, with the music industry, and there always has been. So that being said, I do think that there are opportunities, and I think the best thing that I've tried to do for other women is I'm obsessed with helping people negotiate, period. Like, I think there's so many jobs that pay less than what's livable in New York. And so it's just about, okay, like who are the companies that actually care about employees first? Because if we're going to care about artists, we got to care about the people who are doing the work, right? And are they paying them right? And like, what are there are a handful, I mean, more than a handful. There are a lot of great companies out there. It's just, understand, and I don't know, I just would highly recommend like doing a lot of research about the vibe and the companies. And
So I thought I'd share my perspective. Being that it's been male dominated for so long, for me personally, I have experienced things where I feel like certain opportunities are kind of handed to the men on a platter, whereas with us, we have to prove ourselves, and there's like a rigmarole that we have to go through to prove our capability. So, with this whole diversity inclusion illusion, a lot of times people are offered jobs either through nepotism or through who they know and being well connected, and that's how they often get these opportunities. So they will interview you for protocol purposes, but most often than not, that's what I've experienced in the music industry.
This is real talk right here. Thank you both for the real talk. Seriously. We need the real talk. Okay. Jeannie.
All right. I don't know if I have the answer to that, honestly. As an engineer, like, I feel like I hate. The other day, somebody was asking me about a colleague of mine, and I was like, oh, I don't think she's engineering anymore. And it hit me so hard because I was like, we used to work together, and it's so hard to then project 10 years later and be like, oh, she's not engineering anymore. Why is she not engineering anymore? Because there's not that many jobs. There's not that many jobs for men engineers. And then on top of that, you try to put women in there who like don't get as many opportunities. You get tired. I get tired. I'm like, every day I'm like at it, trying to get more work. I mean, there's a reason I have a day job, like, but it's hard, and at one point in my life, I was like, well, maybe it's because, women want families and they think they can't do the job. But then, like, I have 2 kids, and, like, not to say that that's not hard. I have a super supportive partner, who is also a singer-songwriter, so he gets the business. But I don't know, I have tried really hard to be a champion and be very, very vocal about having kids, and you can still do this industry despite how, I don't want to drop an F-bomb, but I am, because it's really fucking hard, like with kids. But you can still do it. Like, you can still do it. So I don't know. I think having people see more people like that, like Mona has a kid, I have 2 kids, like, you have to see them to know that. There's that saying, like, if you can see it, you can be it. So, like, we just need to be seen. Like, we need to be seen more. So this is great. Thank you.
Thank you. Mona, what do you have to say?
This is going to sound weird, but I've always been okay, and it could be because I was raised by a single mother, but I've been always okay just being the only one, it's just, I haven't felt necessarily discriminated. I would say when it's been a problem is I'll be put in the position of power and then not have the power.
It's the worst.
That's what's been happening to me.
Fake empowerment is the worst.
Yes.
Empowerment is the worst.
I had that at a job. Oh, it's just, there's nothing worse.
Yeah. So that's definitely been a replicated situation in my various career chapters, which is why it's so wonderful to be a business owner, because then you can finally
make the rules.
Yes, which is really, really cool. Yeah.
Thank you all so much. I want to do a little lightning round with 2 of our guests, Jen and Rashida. Can you give us some quick top tips you have for artists looking to break into the world of sync?
For the love of God, whatever you do, when you're writing a song, figure out the song splits. Mm-hmm. What are the percentages? Literally, I'm going to have like a panic attack up here thinking about all of the scenarios I've been in where an artist doesn't get a sync, or something happens, or a sync, everyone's like, well, it's all about the vibe. We're just having fun. We're making music. Like, we don't want to think about business. And then something happens, and then everyone gets really aggressive and greedy about what are the splits. And I just have to say, like, if there's anything I can say to anyone, it's do that as soon as possible. If not, while you're in the studio, be like, okay, you did this. Is it 50-50? Is it 34? Like, whatever needs to happen, just figure that out and keep that information in like a Google Sheet file. And literally just keep track of all of that information, because it's the number one thing that comes up with artists. It never fails. Even artists who are super successful, they still find themselves like feeling very awkward about this extremely important, like you can't do anything unless you do that. So that's step number one. Sorry, I feel like really passionate about this topic, but
so there with you.
It's literally, it comes up all day, every day.
Well, that has to be frustrating for you because you're trying to seal the deal, and that's going to stall it, right?
What happens is, because we require that before we even pitch music from artists, there's all of these things that we require. That's like number one. Like, are there publishers involved? Like, who do we contact? Because sync moves so fast. If someone wants to use a song, it's like we need to tell them within 5 minutes what the deal is, how much we represent, who to talk to if we don't represent all of it. And if we have the wrong information on hand, which happens, it just completely slows down the process and can get in the way of something going final. So, like, it is so, like, it's so important. And also, just another quick thing is don't ever use samples without clearing them first, for the love of God. Like, truly, I mean, one day or after this, I'll like go into detail of some of the horror stories that we've dealt with. But yeah, just, I think that's number one for me, is just splits. Figuring that out. Y'all can do it. I believe in you.
I love it.
Well, to piggyback off what she said on the education side, that's why the required readings that I tell the students to read is Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business by Donald Passam, and also Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Those are great textbooks to refer to if you're looking to work in the sync field. You'll learn a lot. I do not like when students go into the recording studio without split sheets. This particular album that I recently worked on, all of that was collected up front. I also had them clean up their metadata, make sure everything was absolutely correct, up to date, current, made sure they registered with their performance rights organizations. Ironically, every artist was with BMI at the time, so we just put BMI on the back of that. And also made sure they signed up with the MLC. That is another place where they can claim their rights. Taking it a step further, signing up with Disco AC, making sure that their MP3 files are there and the metadata is embedded in each MP3 file. That way there's no misunderstanding about who owns what or what percentage of the publishing is owned.
And please stop putting like Untitled as the track,
the
or
track
like
name.
Just Mixed Today, or
some of the other things that I also recommend that they do is when they have a really great song, and that's really where they should start. Have good music. I mean, aside from not having samples and things, let's start with good music, syncable music, but I also actually ask them to do a variety of genres. I ask them to do instrumental. I also ask them to do an a cappella version of their track. And I also make sure they have their lyrics ready, and just be prepared to have it maybe redone by someone else, maybe in an orchestral version, depending on how it's going to be synced in the film. I also show them how to fill out, the sheets that would be filled out by a music supervisor.
You're an angel.
So they know.
Sent from the heavens.
Training the next generation right.
Yeah, well, I mean, they need to know that if their song is really good, it could be used more than one time. So they could be paid multiple times. If it's a main theme, it's an opening. If it's as an a cappella, if it's as an instrumental, if it's as a closing. That's why I said do multiple genres of your song if you have a really well done song. When you go in a recording studio, you actually should also have whoever's mastering your music sign an agreement saying that they are a work for hire. That way, when you pay for the service of having the masters mastered, they don't get any rights on any of your music. You know, a lot of record labels, sometimes they have things leaked, and sometimes it's by the engineer or people who are in the recording session. And so when you make sure you have that disclosure signed, you protect yourself and make sure that you own your masters outright. because a lot of people, who are executive producers or who do take credits in some capacity on a record or a single or anything that's produced, they will steal your publishing from you if you do not button yourself up.
There's a lot of important things to button up. I think a great message here is get your business together. So I want to kick it over to Mona and Jeanne on the studio side. What do you wish more women knew before they arrive in a studio setting? And how do you help support women in studio environments? Jeanne.
They need to know their craft well. Because it's one thing to be offered a gig, but not really be prepared for it. Like there's that other mouthful of things that's saying about like you have to be ready when opportunity knocks. So like if you are going to get the gig that you are being offered, you need to be ready for that gig. Yeah. So you need to do all of the things ahead of time. The really great advice that Jim Anderson gave me was he was like, don't go to New York. You need to go somewhere where you can make your mistakes first. And that was Banff. He was like, you need to go to the Banff Center. And it's true. It's like you don't go to the big giant city before you take the little steps first. You know what I mean? It's not to say that you're not going to learn things in the places that you go, because that's also we are always learning. But yeah, you really need to hone your craft and also wear lots of hats.
Great advice.
And be okay with doing
reminders.
Whatever you're asked, too, because
And you're talking about anyone, musicians, people doing voiceover.
Oh, yeah.
You're recording all kinds of folks in your world, right?
Yeah. All of it. Yeah. You need to know how to record the voice. And I mentioned that I started in classical and jazz, but now I mostly do indie Latin. And, I didn't know that me learning how to mic a violin was actually going to come in handy when I recorded mariachi, because mariachi has lots of violins. So it's anything you learn is at some point going to come back around. And so you have to be open to all of that.
Amazing. Thank you. How about you, Mona? And how do you create a kind of a safe and, space, I would say, for women here, even at the Bridge, too, to come in?
I mean, my number one goal, just having worked in the music industry, was not to have it feel intimidating at all. And I think that our staff actually are incredible, because we really have a quote unquote good vibes only mantra where, it can get really stressful in a studio setting or in the engineer or the hot seat. And even in those moments of stress, I believe they do an incredible job just being like, it's okay, it's good vibes only, instead of adding to the pressure and frustration. That's really, really hard to do as an engineer, because you are you're nonstop, on that hot seat. Yeah. So I would say being as inclusive and inviting and welcoming as possible, and adding that energy to for anyone that walks into our space, at least we try to make it an atmosphere that's welcoming.
And how do you actually cultivate that? Is that something that when you're interviewing people, you're kind of bringing up, or you kind of just know when you know? How do you create that?
Yes. We had many interviews. Greg and Urash ended up getting through. They've been with us since day one. They were taking Q-tips and dusting the knobs of the board, in between the knobs of our board in the early days when we first moved. There was construction dust. And we went through many other interviews, and it was obviously they had to know their craft. But it's also an energy thing. Jeannie's engineered here. She has this energy that she brings to the table that welcomes people, and that's first for us besides a craft. It's right up there at the same level. Vibe. You can't have judgment. You can't come across I'm better than you.
I want to piggyback off of Mona, because you were asking about the interview and the vibes.
Yes.
So Mona and I met because, again, another connection led me here. And I have to say that one of the, that week I had 2 interviews, and I had one interview where a dude was like, oh, you want to work part-time because you want to be with your kid. And I was like, no. And then I came here.
That is so annoying.
I know. I came here, and Mona and Eamon were so great. And Eamon was like, it's so great you're a mom, because you're going to like be really cautious about a mic falling on the floor. And I was like, that is the difference in the yes. And I remember feeling so good because I was like, yes, because I'm constantly paranoid about something falling on the floor. And so like it was literally like it happened in the same week, and I remember saying like, that is how you interview, and that is how you make people feel welcome, and that is how you like foster women in an environment that like doesn't typically have women in it.
Such great wisdom. Thank you all so much. You all are leaders, you know, in your respective careers and lanes. You have, you use your voice, you raise your voice, you're leading and trailblazing in some really cool ways. And, you know, it's not always easy to do that. It's not always easy to raise your voice. It's not always easy to be a professor in a space where you may be the only woman of color. You know, it's not always easy to be a mom and an engineer and to talk about that, you know. So I was wondering if you all could just share some of your courage tips, your confidence tips that, you know, help you muster up that voice and that confidence to lead in your careers. Rashida.
Well, I believe closed mouths don't get fed. So if you don't speak up for yourself, nobody else will. And when I tell the students, you know, that I know really want it, I said, know what you want to do, because if you don't, this is the exploitation business, and they will exploit you. So you might as well know your address and know where you're going to go. You may not get there as quickly as you think you should be there, but at least know what you want to do. And I promise you get closer to it as long as you keep working towards it.
Ooh, that gave me goosebumps. That's
all
good.
kinds of goosebumps.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
that was good. I think just like also like just at the end of the day, you are yourself. So you have to answer to yourself, right? So like listening to your gut and knowing what feels right, what doesn't feel right, and just being like, look, tonight when I go to sleep, this is how I am, at least. I'm like, did I speak up, or was there a moment where I could have said something, or I'm obsessed. I mean, I probably am like too far on the other side where I talk too much. You know, I'm always like, God damn it, what is happening? But I think just the more you can just do what's authentic to yourself, because not everyone is meant to fight every battle. Not everyone is, like, you don't have to be the person to call something out if that's not who you are. But you can certainly like talk to other people, share your experiences with other artists, or do like, there are so many things that can happen. You don't have to be the person who's like, you know, just risking everything or whatever it is. And you can always talk to me and I'll call them out. No problem. But yeah, I think just like
out, yes.
being true to yourself, whatever that means, and like showing up in the world, however much of yourself you can be, is my number one.
Love it.
That's such a good one. I feel like I take a little bit steal from everyone, but I would say I try to say what I'm thinking and in a collaborative way. That's how I gain my confidence when trying out things or ideas. I will test it on people, try it out. What do you think? And that's been my journey, and it has been working actually really well. I never want to do anything by myself. So every time I have an idea, I like find people to do it with me. So I'm very much a collaborator at heart. And so I think that gives me confidence when I have a small, like a team or a community. So I draw upon others in a way to get my own confidence going.
I love that. Leadership doesn't have to be alone.
Yeah.
I have found so much power in leading with people. That's why actually my day job, I was so excited to try, because I said, I wonder if my version of leadership can work and if I can scale that. And I've been testing it for fun, and it's totally working. It's been great. It's been great. Like they are leading everything globally, and I'm just, you know, making it like a facilitator, you know?
Just casual VP.
It's great.
You know,
I love it.
No.
Learning a lot.
Crushing it. Yes, yeah. I love it. Jeannie, tips to lead.
I am with you, Jen, that sometimes to my own detriment, I tend to probably speak up more than I should at times. I think one of the most important things that I've always thought is like never being afraid to ask for something, because the worst somebody's going to say is no. And so sometimes I ask for a lot. But I get a lot of yeses. Shout out Will Garrett. Short story, Will Garrett was my boss at Spotify for the residency that I got that was put on by Berkeley and Spotify. And, it was the first time the program ran. And we were trying to figure out where I would fit in. And then one day I asked for studio time so that I could, record bands on my own. And they said yes. So thank you. So yeah, those are the, if they had said no, then, whatever, I still would have hung out in a 6-month residency that was really cool. But the point is I was not afraid to ask. So I think it's important to ask because you never know. And, I also think it's important for like your own self-motivation to not give up, because also that residency, I was like 10 years older than the assistant and I had a kid. So like, like your trajectory doesn't necessarily have to be linear. Like you can always come back to things and you can always keep going. And, like I said, jazz classical, now I'm doing Latin, which is what I wanted to do in the beginning in Miami, but now I'm doing it in New York. So
Get a round of applause for this panel. I mean, I don't want it to end. This has just been so illuminating and inspiring and real. We're going to have a very quick final lightning round question. I always end the She Rocked It interviews by asking my guests, what is your one tip to rock it? So give us a quick tip, starting with Jeannie.
Join your community, network, make sure it's not about who you know, it's about who knows you so that you can get the gigs.
I would say find your superpower. Everyone has something very special and unique about them. Mine took a long time for me to figure out. And, even though it was so, it felt like I was meandering in life, it all made sense in the end. I have a very specific superpower, right? And each of you has one. So find it and go to town. Yeah.
Totally. Mine would be it's really hard even for me, but to stop caring what other people think and to do, and just, I've said this a million times already tonight, but just to do you to the most extreme degree and understanding, taking the time to get to know yourself and knowing your value and all the things that you very much deserve. And, yeah.
Mine would be piggybacking off of yours as well, but you need to have a healthy work-life balance, because in this business, you're working late hours, sometimes you're working all different times, depending on what time zone you're in and if you're collaborating with people from around the world. So incorporate a healthy work-life balance, treat yourself right. And I say be authentic and true to yourself so you don't lose yourself.
So important.
Mm-hmm. It's so hard to pick one tip. I would say that my one tip, and this actually applies to Shira and New York Music Month, is show up. Show up for yourself. It can be hard. Building She Rocked It scared the shit out of me. And you know what I did? Show up. I made a regular appointment with a woman who was helping me as my producer. But that got me to show up because I would have been probably too scared if I didn't have that appointment every week to build this podcast. Makes me emotional. And it's been 3 years and we're partnering with the city of New York. So just show up. And thank you all for showing up for yourselves today. Thank you all.
This special episode of the She Rocked It podcast was recorded live at the Bridge Studio in Brooklyn, New York. It was produced by Karen Gross and Tori Marchioni, with mixing and mastering by Tung Chen. The She Rocked It theme song is by Karen Gross and Tim Motzer. This episode was recorded as part of New York City Music Month 2024. NY Music Month is an initiative of the NYC Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment. A huge thank you to Shira Gans and the New York City Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment for their support of this special episode of the She Rocked It podcast. Get tuned in and visit NYMusicMonth.NYC. And for more episodes of the She Rocked It podcast, visit us at sherockedit.com.